Prince Louis once again totally stealing the show. Watch as he copies big bro George's. I mean, do you not love that? And of course, the youngest of William and Kate's children is known for being quite a scene stealer.
4 years, Prince Louis has lived in the shadow of royal traditions, his childhood carefully shielded behind palace walls. But today, that silence was shattered most suddenly. In a moment that stunned the royal family and captivated the world, the youngest Wales sibling stepped forward with a revelation no one saw coming. His words carried a weight far beyond his age, shaking long-protected narratives and raising urgent questions inside the monarchy. So what exactly did Prince Louis reveal that left everyone utterly speechless today, and will forever? The day, the quiet, Prince suddenly owned the world. At a royal event, shy Prince Louis usually offered a small, timid wave behind his mother. But this time, the 7-year-old surprised everyone. He confidently stepped forward, not hiding or waiting for cues, moving boldly into the spotlight with playful energy. In that single, unplanned moment, Louis claimed attention and broke routine, showing a fearless charm that hinted at a growing charisma far beyond his years. The moment the light hit his face, he looked up. And then, he did it. He locked eyes with what felt like a million cameras. Not nervously, not cautiously, but with the fearless confidence of someone who had no idea that the entire world was watching. Or maybe someone who absolutely did. Then came the grin. That mischievous, cheeky, can't help but smile back grin that instantly rewrote the mood of the entire event. It wasn't the polished, royal smile people were used to. It was the pure, joyful expression of a boy enjoying himself far more than protocol probably allowed. And after that, the wave. Oh, it wasn't just a wave. It was a performance. Louis lifted his little hand high and gave the kind of enthusiastic, full-arm swing normally reserved for greeting a best friend at school pickup. It was dramatic. It was adorable. It was unforgettable. In those 10 seconds, 10 tiny, unscripted seconds, Prince Louis didn't just participate in the moment. He owned it. His older siblings, George and Charlotte, were doing everything perfectly, standing straight, smiling softly, behaving like seasoned young royals. But their little brother? He brought a burst of personality that no one, and truly no one, saw coming. Cameras scrambled to capture it. Commentators, who had rehearsed lines all morning, suddenly found themselves laughing, repeating his name, trying to describe the unexpected spark he brought. Photographers lunged for better angles, knowing the real headline had just changed. And then came the internet. Within minutes, social media timelines flooded with clips, screenshots, slow-motion replays, and excited captions. Prince Louis is the moment. The King of Chaos returns. The royal show stealer strikes again. People from every corner of the world shared the moment as if it were a tiny gift that made their day just a little brighter. He wasn't being rebellious. He wasn't breaking rules. He was simply being Louis, the spirited, expressive youngest child who has repeatedly shown that while he may be small, he has an enormous personality that refuses to stay hidden. And that's what made the moment so magical. In a sea of tradition, discipline, protocol, and polished public appearances, Prince Louis brought the kind of innocence and spontaneity that reminded everyone that, at the end of the day, even future kings and queens are still children. Children who laugh, who play, who wave too big, and who sometimes steal the spotlight without even realizing it. This tiny burst of authenticity, one grin, one wave, was enough to warm millions of hearts across the globe. It became the highlight of the entire event, replayed again and again with growing affection. People weren't just watching a royal appearance. They were witnessing a little boy discovering the power of the moment and embracing it with unfiltered joy. And without speaking a single word, Prince Louis delivered a message louder than any speech. I'm here. I'm growing. and you're definitely going to remember me." It was more than cute. It was iconic. The royal family may have their line of succession, their centuries of tradition, and their carefully shaped public image. But on this day, the smallest Windsor reminded everyone that charm, personality, and innocence have a magic all their own. And for 10 unforgettable seconds, the world didn't look at kings, queens, or future rulers. It looked at a little boy with a bright grin and a bold wave, and absolutely fell in love. Did Prince Louis's action look so strange to his fans? For how long has he been dramatic? Let's delve into the details of the muddy knees who became the global meme king. The making of a royal superstar. Long before that unforgettable viral moment that sent the internet spinning, Prince Louis had been quietly building his reputation as the royal family's tiny scene stealer. In fact, anyone paying close attention could see the signs from the very beginning. Even as a toddler barely steady on his feet, Louis carried a kind of wild, joyful curiosity that no royal protocol could ever tame. At just 1 year old, while most royal babies his age were photographed in perfectly pressed outfits and calm poses, Louis had other plans. At the Chelsea Flower Show, instead of gazing politely at the beautifully designed gardens, he grabbed sticks, swung them like swords, and happily scooped up handfuls of dirt as though he were exploring a kingdom of his own. Cameras clicked, yes, but not because he looked royal. Rather, because he looked real. A small boy discovering the world with wide eyes, messy hands, and absolutely no awareness of titles or traditions. That moment was a warning sign. Louis was not going to be the typical royal child. By the time he turned 4, his personality had burst fully into view. During the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, while the dignified adults sat in their carefully arranged seats, watching the soaring fighter jets with polite admiration, Louis reacted like any thrilled little boy would. He screamed, not in fear but in pure, heart-pounding excitement. Hands waved, face lit up, mouth wide open. He didn't pretend to be calm or composed. He didn't care who was watching. He lived the moment with every bit of his being. The royal adults tried to maintain their seriousness, but Louis's joy was so big it practically shook the balcony. People around the world felt it through their screens. This wasn't just a royal event anymore. It was a glimpse of childhood in its rawest, happiest form. But the Jubilee gave us more than just the fighter jet moment. At 5 years old, Louis produced what would become one of the most iconic clips in modern royal history while sitting beside the Princess of Wales. His mother, calm and elegant as always, Louis decided he had heard enough. With complete innocence and absolute boldness, he placed his small hand over her mouth, as if to say, "Mummy, that's quite enough now." The moment was hilarious, unscripted, and instantly beloved. Social media exploded. Memes were made within minutes. Louis became the internet's new favorite reaction GIF, used for everything from joking disagreements to playful sass. He didn't try to steal the spotlight. The spotlight simply couldn't resist him. Each of these moments shares one powerful truth. Every time the palace tried to present a neat, carefully managed image of the youngest Wales child, Louis's unfiltered charm burst through like sunshine breaking out from behind clouds. No royal handbook, no PR strategy, no formal training could contain the natural spark he carries. He laughs loudly, he frowns dramatically, he wiggles, he protests, he celebrates, and he expresses exactly what he feels, without hesitation and without calculation. And people noticed, not in a look at the royal family way, but in a look at this absolutely delightful child way. Louis reminded the world of something many had forgotten, that behind the grand titles, behind the traditions and crowns and immaculate photographs, royalty is still made up of human beings. And sometimes those human beings are small children who cannot sit still, who don't care about cameras, who get overwhelmed, excited, bored, or amused. Just like every child everywhere, the public didn't just watch Louis grow, it cheered for him. They didn't just admire him, they adored him. Because he wasn't polished. He wasn't pretending, he wasn't trying to be perfect. He was simply being himself, joyfully, loudly, messily, wonderfully himself. And in a world where so many things feel staged or overly controlled, Prince Louis became something rare. A royal child who behaves like an actual child. And that, more than anything else, is why the world fell completely, hopelessly in love with him. This is not the first time Louis is making the news over his childish actions. However, does this seem to be the weirdest of all? Since when has he been making the world laugh? Let's dive into the details of some funny moments of Prince Louis. Top Prince Louis moments that had the world laughing. Prince Louis, the youngest of the Wales children, has become something of a national treasure. Not because he tries to be, but precisely because he doesn't. His natural, unfiltered, and wonderfully mischievous personality shines through at every royal appearance, turning even the most formal ceremonies into unexpectedly heartwarming and often hilarious moments. While other royal children through history have been known for their poise, Louis is known for something far more relatable, being delightfully and unapologetically himself. One of the first moments that won the hearts of millions was when he casually slipped on his mother Kate's Ray-Ban sunglasses. The image was instantly iconic, a tiny prince lounging like a mini superstar, looking as if he were on holiday rather than at a royal engagement. It showed a playful confidence many adults wish they had. Louis's expressive face became another signature trait. During Trooping the Color, he made what can only be described as a full range of comedic reactions. When the jets roared overhead, instead of clapping politely, he yelled enthusiastically, stuck out his tongue, and pulled exaggerated faces. While the rest of the family stood in dignified silence, Louis brought the balcony to life, reacting with wide-eyed wonder and genuine excitement. At one point, he even looked totally unimpressed while waving from his carriage, as though he'd decided royal processions were simply too ordinary for him. His Platinum Jubilee pageant moments only sealed his status as the monarchy's chief entertainer. Louis danced without a care in the world, raised his arms dramatically, wiggled in his seat, and flashed cheeky grins to the crowd. Cameras caught him waving at random intervals, sometimes enthusiastically, sometimes mischievously, as if he were in on a secret joke. He became the unexpected star of the entire celebration. During the 2023 Trooping the Color, he once again outshined the ceremony. Positioned between Prince George and Princess Charlotte, Louis pulled silly faces and even mimicked the aircraft soaring overhead, pretending he could pilot them himself. His siblings stayed composed, but Louis followed his own script, and the world loved every second. Later, inside the carriage, he tried to hide his laughter, his face scrunching up in an effort to stay serious, which of course only made it funnier. Perhaps one of his most memorable moments was the time he gently placed his hand over his mother's mouth. Right as she was trying to encourage better behavior instead of causing outrage, it instantly became a beloved clip. It showed a familiar scene any parent could relate to, making the royal family feel unexpectedly normal. At the coronation, in front of the world, Louis let out a huge yawn mid-ceremony, a perfect reminder that even future king's brothers get sleepy during long events, and during a Christmas carol service at Westminster Abbey, he cheekily winked at the audience, sending social media into a frenzy. He didn't need fancy speeches or grand gestures. A single wink from Louis was enough to make global headlines. Then, proving he's more than just comic relief, Louis surprised everyone during a 2023 visit to a scout hut when he picked up a bow and arrow and tried his hand at archery. To everyone's delight, he wasn't only enthusiastic, he was pretty good. It was a rare moment where the playful prince showed his sporty side, aiming carefully and showing real focus. All these moments paint a picture of a child who brings light, humor, and spontaneity wherever he goes. Prince Louis hasn't just captured hearts, He's reminding the world that even in the most formal traditions, there is room for joy, laughter, and a little bit of harmless chaos. What was the first school day like for Louis? Was it much different from his older siblings? How did his parents manage it? Let's find out. The secret childhood. George and Charlotte had their moments in the spotlight from the very start. Their first days of school were carefully choreographed affairs. Official photo calls, posed smiles, tiny uniforms perfectly pressed, and cameras clicking from every angle. Oh, fans and media outlets knew where to find them, and the world collectively oohed and awed at every detail. But Louis? He experienced none of that. No official photographs, no carefully curated glimpses of him playing in a sunlit playground. No whispered leaks about which classroom he had claimed. In fact, sightings of him were so rare that one could almost forget he existed, if it weren't for the fact that he was impossible to ignore. William and Catherine, acutely aware of the relentless glare of the cameras, had built a fortress of privacy around their youngest son. They understood, perhaps better than anyone, just how invasive life under constant scrutiny could be for a child. For George and Charlotte, exposure was gradual and calculated, but for Louis, they wanted something very different. They wanted him to know the simple pleasures of childhood without the weight of the world watching. Digging in the garden with dirt under his fingernails, listening to Mary Berry's gentle voice on repeat, observing how beans grew in a humble paper cup on the windowsill. These were the moments that shape a child's imagination, curiosity, and sense of security. They wanted him to experience life on his own terms, away from the relentless lens that transforms ordinary moments into public spectacle. But there's a lesson that even the most cautious parents eventually learn. Some stars are simply too bright to stay hidden forever. Louis, with his mischievous energy and innate charm, was never going to linger quietly in the background. While his older siblings had been carefully guided into public life, Louis seemed to have a mind of his own, one that didn't quite understand, or perhaps didn't care about, the rules of discretion. The curtain of privacy that his parents had meticulously set up, he didn't merely peek behind it, he pulled it down entirely, with a laugh and a flourish that made the world sit up and take notice. Suddenly, Louis was everywhere. His personality, sharp and playful, seemed to demand recognition, whether through candid glimpses caught by the occasional photographer or through the infectious stories shared by those who encountered him in the rare public moments his parents allowed. Unlike George and Charlotte, whose images were carefully curated and moments strategically framed, Louis offered spontaneity, unpredictability, and a dash of chaos. In doing so, he reminded everyone watching that childhood, real childhood, is not neat or scheduled. It is loud, curious, sometimes unruly, and always full of wonder. In a sense, Louis's parents had given him the greatest gift they could: the freedom to be himself, to explore, to grow, to make discoveries without the pressure of constant observation. And in the same gesture, Louis was teaching the world something just as profound, that even in a life constructed around rules, routines, and expectations, a little spark can leap out and demand its own space. He might not have had official school photos or publicized playground adventures like his siblings, but he had something arguably more powerful, a personality so vibrant and self-assured that it couldn't be contained, no matter how carefully the walls had been built around him. And so, while George and Charlotte continued to charm the cameras in carefully orchestrated bursts, Louis charted a different course. One might say he rewrote the rules of royal childhood, insisting that the world could watch, but only if he allowed it. In doing so, he became a symbol of spontaneity, joy, and the subtle rebellion of youth. The lesson was clear. Some children are not meant to linger in the shadows, no matter how well-intentioned the guardians of their privacy may be. Louis didn't just step into the light. He created his own stage, one where curiosity, playfulness, and unfiltered charm could take center stage. leaving everyone else to marvel at the show. With his dramas, does Louis look like a born leader? How close is he to the line of succession? Let's dig into the details of how spares can eventually be crowned. Fourth in line, but history loves a plot twist. Right now, the line of succession looks neat, almost comforting. Charles, William, George, Charlotte, Louis. A tidy chain, easy to follow, predictable. Everyone knows their place. The cameras and headlines barely blink. The public nods along and everything seems set in stone. But the British throne has never been a fan of predictability. History has a way of laughing at neat plans and polite expectations. The crown is a stubborn, mischievous thing, and it delights in shaking the world awake with surprises. Princes once labeled as spares could have woken up to discover that destiny has a strange sense of humor, that overnight they have become the rulers of a kingdom. If the plots twist, Queen Elizabeth II herself was once third in line. She was not supposed to reign. Her father, George VI, was never meant to rule at all. The world was set on one path, and yet, in quiet, unpredictable ways, the crown rearranged the cards. Every time someone says, "That'll never happen," history leans back, smirks, and whispers, "Watch me." Monarchies are built on tradition, ceremony, and the illusion of order. Yet the truth is that the crown has always been drawn to the unexpected. The throne does not care for neat little lines drawn on paper. It pays no mind to careful plans or forecasts. It prefers drama. It finds its way to the person nobody is watching, the child whose name is barely whispered in the corridors of power, the one who seems too young, too distant, too irrelevant to matter, until suddenly all eyes are on them. Think about Louis. He might grow up in the shadow of his older siblings, his days framed by the predictable order of his place in line. He might never wear the crown, yet even that is no guarantee. The crown has a history of finding those who seem invisible, those written off as secondary or spare. It is drawn to unpredictability like a magnet, a force that bends the neat lines of succession until they curve toward the surprising. The throne has a mischievous memory, a way of proving the world wrong. History is littered with stories of the unplanned, the unprepared, the unlikely, who suddenly became central to the story. George VI, who never expected the crown, led a nation through war. Elizabeth II, thrust into rule by accident of fate, became the longest-serving monarch in British history. In the same vein, someone like Louis, quiet, overlooked, underestimated, could one day be the pivot around which the kingdom turns. The crown has an almost poetic habit of seeking out the child no one thought to watch, the one the world assumes will be forgotten, and elevating them to a position that changes everything. Order is comforting, yes, predictability is tempting, but the throne reminds us that no line of succession is ever truly safe. Plans are temporary. Titles may shift. The kingdom has a history of sudden reversals, of unexpected heirs rising, of destinies rewritten in ways no one could predict. That's the strange, thrilling nature of monarchy. The crown does not belong to expectation. It belongs to history itself. And history, as it has so often shown, delights in taking the world by surprise. So while the names of Charles, William, George, Charlotte, and Louis may sit neatly in order today, tomorrow could be a different story entirely. The crown doesn't care about neatness. It doesn't play by rules. It finds its way to the overlooked, the underestimated, the unexpected. Louis may or may not wear it, but in the grand, unpredictable theater of monarchy, the one who seems least likely often becomes the center of the kingdom. History has a long memory, and it is rarely kind to those who think they understand what comes next. In the end, the crown waits patiently, quietly, mischievously. It watches the children grow, it bends the lines, it nudges the unexpected forward, and when the time comes, it falls exactly where it wants to, often into the hands of the one the world barely noticed. What are the odds that Prince Louis would emerge the king one day? Could this be more of an imagination or a possibility? Let's take a look at the future of such a possibility. King Louis, the idea that went from impossible to deliciously possible. 40 years from now, the familiar chimes of Big Ben will echo across London, announcing a moment that will be etched in history. The balcony of Buckingham Palace gleams under the morning sun, and there he is, a grown man, with that same mischievous sparkle in his eyes, and a cheeky, confident grin that can charm a crowd before he even speaks. King Louis steps forward, a figure of poise and quiet authority, yet carrying the playful energy of the child who once captured hearts with tiny, carefree waves and blown kisses to an adoring crowd. The little boy who once giggled behind velvet curtains, who peered curiously at the world from the safety of royal walls, now wears the imperial state crown, and with it, the weight and wonder of a monarchy's future. Royal commentators and enthusiasts are already buzzing. They murmur about that effortless charm, the kind George still struggles to master, the rare blend of mischievousness and dignity that makes him endlessly watchable. They speak of the kind of playfulness that invites a smile from the public, a lightheartedness that softens even the sternest headlines. And then there's the name, King Louis Short. Strong and unforgettable, it rolls off the tongue with ease, resonating with both history and modernity. It carries gravitas without being heavy, and warmth without losing strength. A name that sticks, a name that defines. It's astonishing, really. This is a boy who, in the eyes of the public, was once the spare's spare, the youngest of the young, the one often overlooked in the shadow of older siblings. Yet he has turned that invisibility into intrigue, transforming himself into the royal wildcard that no one saw coming. Every small gesture, every playful wink caught on camera, hints at a depth of personality and a charisma that cannot be taught. He is both familiar and surprising, a figure who will rewrite the story of the monarchy in ways that are unpredictable, yet somehow inevitable. And here's the most remarkable part. He is only 7. Not 7 decades, not 17, but 7. The boy who waves shyly at crowds, who tugs at his mother's hand when the cameras roll, who laughs when things go just slightly wrong. The same boy is planting the seeds of a legacy that could redefine how the world sees the royal family. Observers watch in fascination, sensing the beginnings of a journey that promises joy, mischief, and profound influence all at once. The story has just begun, yet already, the world is captivated. It is a tale that blends history and imagination, tradition and surprise. The narrative writes itself in whispers and smiles, in the delicate tension between the known and the unknown. Will King Louis embrace the spotlight with the measured grace expected of a monarch? Or will he bring the spontaneity and playfulness of youth into every royal ceremony, charming critics and citizens alike? What adventures, trials, and triumphs await this young king as he grows, from the boy who once tossed kisses to an entire nation, into the man who commands it with quiet authority, laughter, and heart? Already the imagination of the world is hooked, imagining every balcony wave, every carefully timed gesture, every moment where mischief meets majesty. He is not just a prince, he is a promise, a spark that hints at a monarchy that could be both serious and delightfully unpredictable, strong yet full of warmth. 40 years from now, when the bells of London ring again, King Louis will stand on that balcony, and the world will remember exactly how it all began, with a boy, a smile, a crown, and a story that refuses to let go. So do you think Prince Louis's dramatic moments are thrilling to his fans? Do they see him ascend the throne one day? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.